If you're a sports fan, make sure you go check out SportsCastr for all of your sports needs. Whether you're a football fan, basketball fan, or baseball fan, this app is the perfect way to get news for your team and is an app I personally use myself in case any of you guys want to check out my pregame, halftime, or postgame streams. I'll leave a link in the description below. What is up, Pats Nation? It's Patriots Global back here with another video, and in this one, I want to talk about the Patriots offensive line and their struggles, but more specifically, Marshall Newhouse and how he has been the guy that has really been struggling the most on the offensive line. Now, I made an entire video about Marshall Newhouse and the signing if you guys want to know more about him and the type of player he is and his past, so I'm not going to go super in-depth with that. Everything here is going to be pretty basic. So if you would like to know more, make sure you guys go check out that video. But Marshall Newhouse is a guy that the Patriots signed right after the injury to Isaiah Wynn. As we all know, Isaiah Wynn went down in the Week 1 game versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Patriots have then placed him on the injured reserve since then, so he has not been able to play any more games this season since, of course, that first game versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. New England has made a lot of transactions to its offensive line, especially ever since Isaiah Wynn was to go down. Of course, you have Jermaine Illuminor, who joined the team. You have Corey Cunningham, the offensive tackle, who a lot of people thought was going to take over that starting role when Isaiah Wynn went down, but still serves as that backup. The Pats really looked to the free agency market when they came to the offensive line and having to replace Isaiah Wynn, and that is where they found the veteran left tackle in Marshall Newhouse. He's 31 years old. He has spent his time in the NFL with a plethora of different teams. He was originally selected in the 5th round of the 2010 draft. He isn't a huge guy when it comes to height. Now, he is bigger than Isaiah Wynn, who's just 6'2", but you're not looking at like a 6'6" guy, etc. He's 6'4", 319 pounds, so a pretty bulky guy when it comes to weight, but when it comes to height, he's not anything too crazy. And of course, this is the most Bill Belichick classic move, as Bill will always go with veteran presence. He will always pick a guy that has the experience around the NFL and has experience in real NFL games rather than a young guy who might be able to maneuver better than, let's say, a veteran is. New England's offensive line really all offseason has had a lot of questions with multiple guys coming in and out. David Andrews, Isaiah Wynn, you had Marcus Cannon for a little bit there in that equation. Week 1 came along and the offensive line really did not perform all that bad. Now, of course, the running game has been a pretty big issue ever since the season started straight from the beginning, but when it comes to pass protection, Week 1, it was not too bad. Looking at the current and present time, though, as we enter Week 7, the New England Patriots offensive line is really struggling in every aspect. Now, Marshall Newhouse, of course, let's keep in mind, has not played every single game this season. He's actually only played about 5 games for the Patriots so far, and in those 5 games that he's played in, he's been the starter. He's actually been able to stay healthy. So, of course, if we're going to look at a positive thing here with Marshall Newhouse, it's the fact that he is able to stay on the field. Statistically, though, he has allowed 4 sacks, 7 quarterback hits, 2 pressures, and 2 holding penalties. He has allowed the most sacks out of really any offensive player that has been involved in blocking for the Patriots this season, that being, the rest of the offensive line players, and that being the running backs that are blocking and whatnot. And he has also allowed the most quarterback hits, again with 7 of them. Now, just for a little bit more reference, I will now give you the statistics of the other offensive linemen, just so you can kind of compare how Marshall Newhouse is doing compared to, again, the other offensive linemen. Now, Joe Thuney has allowed a sack, a quarterback hit, and 2 pressures. Ted Karras has allowed a sack, 2 quarterback hits, 2 pressures, and 3 holding penalties. Shaq Mason has allowed 1.5 sacks, a quarterback hit, 7 pressures, and a holding penalty. And then Marcus Cannon has allowed 1.5 sacks, 2 quarterback hits, and 6 pressures. So you can visibly see how much Marshall Newhouse is really contributing into these offensive line struggles. When Isaiah Wynn was out there, and I don't want to get too much into Isaiah Wynn as I'm going to make an entire video about him, but when Isaiah Wynn was out there, both in the preseason from the little bit that we got to see him, but also in the game versus the Pittsburgh Steelers before he went down with an injury, he was looking really well. He was looking really good in the running game. He was looking really good in pass protection, of course, minus that 1 sack. But even then, you have to really keep in mind the situation that Isaiah Wynn is in. He's coming off a season-ending injury. He has not had really any time to showcase or have experience in the NFL. So you have to keep those things in mind with Isaiah Wynn. Marshall Newhouse, to me, when I'm looking back at the Patriots play, I'm looking back at the games, and I'm really studying how this offensive line is doing. He is visibly a big contributor. He's not able to keep his guy off of Tom Brady. There is many times where Tom Brady is actually selling out Marshall Newhouse as he gets the ball out very quick. Marshall Newhouse just has a lot of issues getting beat by whoever is going against him, whoever he has to defend. He visibly is getting older. He definitely is not fast enough. His footwork is not there. And that's the great thing about Isaiah Wynn, okay? He's a young guy. He's really good at footwork, and he's able to hold his ground. A lot of people when looking at offensive lines think, okay, this guy has to be between, 350 and 400 pounds, 6'9", and while that is great, that's not all that matters. Technique and footwork is extremely important to be an offensive lineman. I think the really interesting thing here to note, though, is that the offensive line is very important. This is something Bill Belichick takes extremely serious, of course, this being a very vital piece to the entire team as a whole, especially the offense, and the fact that you have an aging quarterback back there in Tom Brady. I don't think Bill Belichick signed Marshall Newhouse thinking that he was going to be taking over for the rest of the season, playoffs, and potential Super Bowl run. I think if Isaiah Wynn was really that injured, if they did not believe he was going to be coming back later into the season, that by now they would have made a trade for some type of offensive lineman, more specifically replacing that left tackle position. Look, the Patriots might be banged up at the center position. David Andrews, the absence of him might really be hurting the Patriots in some cases, but Ted Karras is doing his job. He's doing it well enough. He's might, had some issues here and there, but he's done a pretty decent job. Really, the big guy here is going to be Marshall Newhouse. And again, the fact that Bill Belichick picked him up via free agency, I think is a good sign that at some point, someone is going to take over for Marshall Newhouse, because if you're looking at the statistics for Newhouse, I don't think Bill Belichick would be comfortable keeping him for the rest of the season. Isaiah Wynn will be eligible to start practicing if the Patriots do decide to take him off of the injury reserve for their second and final injury designation. And if my calculations are right, he would be able to return to practice in another week or two. But that's going to be it for today's video. What are your guys' thoughts on Marshall Newhouse? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're at it, let me know your thoughts on the offensive line as a whole unit. Again, let me know in the comments below. Also, subscribe if you have not already and like this video. Also, make sure you guys share this video with everybody who knows something of the Patriots global family. And other than that, I will catch you guys in another video.